Welcome to the Building and Creating an Online Course cycle of your professional learning road trip. In this cycle, you will learn about the ADDIE model of instructional design and how it applies across the field of education. We will examine how the components of the ADDIE model can guide effective online course design for learners of all ages. Finally, you will apply your understanding of the ADDIE model to complete a template to use as a starting point for building an online unit, a course, or a professional development session. How do you create an engaging and effective online course? Great online courses use a blend of interactive learning materials to teach a concept or change a behavior. We use the ADDIE model as an instructional design framework to build our online courses. ADDIE is an acronym that stands for the 5 phases of the model: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. Each phase produces outcomes necessary for the following phase, which results in a linear, methodical process for course design. The ADDIE framework begins with the end in mind, similar to the backwards design we referenced in the planning and assessment cycle of the road trip. In the analyze phase, you will identify the desired outcomes, the learning goals, the characteristics of the learners, the resources available for content and delivery, and any possible obstacles, limitations, or modifications in the learning environment. In the design phase, you will define specific learning objectives and use a systematic process to identify the content, activities, strategies, and assessments that will guide the learner toward meeting the objectives. During this phase, instructional designers often use storyboarding or prototyping to create a logical sequence of the instructional plan. During the development phase, you will use the resources and graphics you generated or curated in the design phase to begin building out your course in the site or learning management system of your choice. It is important to remember your copyright clearance from any third source materials you use. You can learn more about this in the content curation cycle of the Instructional Technology playlist. The learning begins in the implement phase when you open your course to your learners. You may consider delivering course content to your students through a live session using Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, or Zoom, or through a pre-recorded session using Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic. Whether you decide on a synchronous or asynchronous model, it is important to make sure your learners are aware ahead of time of any technology tools or other materials they may need to be successful in the course. Finally, there is the evaluate phase. Although this phase is listed at the end of the ADDIE model, formative evaluation occurs throughout the entire process. Prior to implementing the course, designers evaluate the course content, materials, and deliver methods to assess whether those elements meet the learning goals of the course and the learning needs of the students. Summative evaluation comes at the end of the course in order to gauge learner satisfaction, to measure skill and knowledge acquisition, and to understand how students are applying their learning. Now that you understand the ADDIE model, you may be wondering, how do I use this model in my work? As a teacher or a coach, we'd like to offer you some practical strategies and tools to consider during each phase. Whether your role is a teacher or a coach, it's important to gather information and analyze your context before developing a course. Ask yourself, who are my learners? What do they already know about the topic? What do you want them to be able to do at the end of the course? In the analyze phase, you will identify the desired outcomes, the learning goals, the characteristics of the learners, the resources available for content and delivery, and any possible constraints. Think about the analyze phase as your pre-assessment. Teachers use pre-assessments to find out what students already know and what they need to know. A teacher designing a course or unit could use data from an adaptive assessment tool, such as iReady, MobyMax, IXL Learning, Dreambox, Khan Academy, and MAP testing. Teachers can also use offline assessments including common assessments, observations, a ticket out the door, and student-teacher conferences. Coaches should also take time to understand what their learners already know before creating a professional development session. Coaches can do things through surveys, observations or walkthroughs, coaching conferences, or by analyzing student data to find areas to improve or change instructional strategies. Now that you know your audience and have identified the learning outcomes for your course, it's time to design a blueprint. In the design phase, you will identify specific learning objectives you want your learners to master and determine how the course can best support their learning. Consider how graphics, multimedia, course structure, and interactive elements can enhance the learning experience. During the design phase, you should also think about how you can scaffold the content for your learners. Scaffolding learning is especially important in a virtual environment where teachers or coaches cannot physically share space with their learners. Scaffolds give learners the support they need to engage with the course content without the direct presence of a teacher or coach. There are several different types of scaffolds to embed within your online course. Conceptual scaffolds, like mind maps or concept maps, help learners organize concepts and make associations between ideas. Procedural scaffolds, such as how-to videos, a calendar of due dates, and the use of standard templates, help learners navigate the course and use tools effectively to engage in learning. Strategic scaffolds assist learners in finding strategies to solve problems that may arise during the course. These scaffolds require the teacher or coach to know individual learner strengths, learning preferences, and limitations. Strategic scaffolds include providing alternative learning pathways, small group learning, and chunking content into smaller segments. Metacognitive scaffolds, such as self-assessments, progress trackers, discussion boards, and learning portfolios, provide guided opportunities for students to reflect on their learning. Many instructional designers use a storyboard during the design phase to create a slide-by-slide draft of their course. The storyboard includes visuals, multimedia, text, audio script, and interactive elements. It helps you organize all the building blocks of your course and gives you a sense of how your course will flow. The more details you include in your storyboard, the easier the development phase will be for you. During the development phase, you will use your storyboard to build your course in your e-learning platform. Your storyboard will guide you, but remember, this process is iterative, so be prepared to make changes along the way. As you assemble together all of the learning resources you generated, make sure you pay attention to design elements like color, graphics, and fonts. Structural elements like course flow, course length, and evidence of opportunities for learners to interact with the content. Testing your course, receiving feedback from colleagues, and making revisions is a critical component of the development phase. It's time to open your course to your learners. If someone else is facilitating the course, make sure you train all of the facilitators before implementation. Check in with your learners to orient them to the course, to you, and to each other. Refer back to the work you did in the analyze phase to get to know your audience, and use that information to set your learners up for success as they begin the course. Even if your entire course is self-directed, your learners will benefit from connecting with you. By the end of the course, your learners will complete a summative assessment that demonstrates what they have learned, the skills they have acquired, and how they can apply their new knowledge and skills. Teachers should consider using non-traditional evaluation methods, such as performance-based assessments or authentic projects, so students have opportunities to engage in meaningful and relevant work. Coaches should consider how teachers can create artifacts that they can actually use in their classrooms to put into practice what they learned during the online professional development course. Whether your learners are students or teachers, it is important that they receive meaningful and timely feedback on their assessment product. Course evaluation is also an important part of the evaluation phase. You want to build an opportunity for your learners to provide feedback on course content and their overall perception of the course and instructor. Giving a survey at the end of the course is a great way to collect this information, and you'll want to take the data from the survey to help you revise your course for the next group of learners. After you explore the websites, articles, podcasts, and videos in the resource section of this cycle, you are ready to create an artifact of your learning. Now choose a unit, course, or professional development session you want to build online. Use the planning template located in the Tinker section to consider how you can use the ADDIE model to develop your course. Step 3. Complete the post-cycle reflection. To complete this cycle, you will upload your Tinker artifact and complete the Grow reflection. The Grow reflection will help you reflect on phases of the ADDIE model you want to learn more about and get better at. If you would like to extend your learning from the cycle, we challenge you to create your own online lesson that aligns with upcoming content that you plan to teach or a professional development session you plan to deliver. Use the storyboarding template found in the Tinker section to plan and then use an EdTech tool of your choice to make your online course. Upload the course link to the Tinker template for feedback from an iTeach coach. Thank you for joining us on the Building and Creating an Online Course Cycle. We can't wait to see your artifacts.